said, I think before, it's not one person or any group of people. I think it's a situation where the club has chased the dream and really probably hasn't been able to afford that dream at that particular time. So that's become very, very evident. But Colin Gordon and myself and the board have been looking at the possibilities and the opportunities there can be to put a legacy together for Kidderminster Harriers going forward for the long term, not just a 1-year programme, a 10-year programme, to make the club more sustainable financially. And to do that, we have the ability here to develop a really strong legacy within its youth development. That's already been started with the BMET College relationship. However, Colin came on board as Director of Football Operations, and whilst he's been with us, he's had a good look at all the opportunities and using his skills and his experiences and his contacts that we could develop a real programme that could put Kidderminster Harriers as a beacon in that particular area, and that would create revenue streams into this football club next season, not this season but next season, that would be able to underpin the commerciality of the club going forward, and then things like gate receipts and things like the commercial upside and the bar takings all become a bit of cream on the top, and we can't get to that situation currently.
Essentially, what you're looking to do then is break a cycle that's been going on not only here but at a lot of clubs at this level, wherein you try and live off the gate receipts, but ultimately you have to rely on a benefactor to, if you like, bail the club out each season.
That's correct, and I think I said at the very start of the season I didn't want to get down to that route that we were keeping going to the shareholders or the benefactors. The club has to be a commercial entity on its own. To be fair, the only way that can happen is that somebody has control of the football club, and that person, whoever that person will be, and in this case it's going to be Colin Gordon. Colin and I have talked about it long and hard, and as I'm sure Colin will explain himself, we've been working with the shareholders, the 3 major shareholders who represent the majority of the shareholding. We've given them the vision of how we see that Kidderminster Harriers can be sustainable going forward, and it can be really built into a really, really strong club for everybody to look at. And on that basis, it needs control. Colin Gordon can take control. We can implement the things that we need to implement, and the various actions that are required. So as of today, that shareholding has been handed over and passed over to Colin, and with myself and the rest of the board, which is going to stay in its same existence as it is now. We plan to implement that and make sure we get through to the end of this season, because there needs to be a capital input in order to make sure that we do get through this season, and obviously that's coming from Colin, and then next season we can really kick in with all the revenue streams that we anticipate coming in.
So the current makeup of the board will remain the same?
Exactly the same, yeah. It will sit in the same format as well. I think Colin would, you'd normally anticipate that Colin would be the chairman. In his words, not mine, Colin feels that he would rather keep the board as it is, myself as chairman, and the rest of the directors on board, and Colin wants to develop in all the areas that he currently deals with, and probably more, on the football side.
And Saturday, of course, you had a win here, which was great news for all concerned. I'm sure a huge relief all round. You're still very much embroiled in a relegation fight. Going forward, those extra income streams you mentioned, presumably, were the worst to happen and the club to be relegated, that wouldn't impact on those, would it?
No, it wouldn't happen. We don't envisage that happening. We really have been positive all the way along the line. But it has been a challenging season to go 19-20 games before we get our first win. It's been very, very difficult. But the decision, the process and the transition we see started a little while ago. It started when we changed the management structure previously. And to be honest with you, it's been very, very difficult. And it's only been through the contacts of our new head coach, Dave Hockaday, Colin's experience and his contacts, that we've managed to start to implement this youth development structure that actually allows us to move forward with a lower cost base.
Yeah, the point I'm making there is, were the club to be relegated, obviously we all hope it isn't, but were it to be relegated, that wouldn't in any way affect that youth development scheme? No, it wouldn't.
What league we're in makes no difference. This is a business, it's a commercial entity, and it has to be run as a commercial entity. Any long-term future for this football club is regardless of what league it's in. I think at the moment, the option is if we don't do anything at all, then there's a danger that we fall into a Hereford scenario. And I think that there is a big risk that could be the case. We don't want that for the football club, so therefore this is something that we had to take action with as quick as we could, and that's why I'm pleased to announce that we're doing it today, effectively.
So it really was that bad. If this didn't happen, could have been curtains.
Well, I think that financially, this football club can't sustain the levels of incomes that it's been committed to in terms of contractual, and we're still paying for that now, and we will continue to pay for that until the end of the season. With the management that we've moved, players that we've had to move out, they don't just suddenly disappear. Those costs don't disappear. We've had to build that in, and hence the reason why we've had to bring in players that on favours. We've had to bit of favours really, where we're not committing large amounts of funding towards them, and that's been a transition that only now are we starting to see some of the benefits, and we've had to move certain players around. So it's not an ideal situation. The fans have been so patient. I think our watershed was the Stourbridge game, which we didn't see that performance coming. It was a very disappointing day for everybody concerned, but I do think it was a watershed, and I think it's coincided with the discussions we've been having with the major shareholders for weeks before that as well. And the reality is, I think it's pushed us and kicked us on to be able to put this in place now and build for the future.